G'day guys, Googs here for The Drunk Philosopher. Today I'm going to talk about authoritarianism and how authoritarianism slowly creeps into the public consciousness through usually a crisis situation, and then you end up with freedom lost. A prime example is what's going on at the moment on the east coast of Australia, both in Sydney and in Melbourne. It wasn't that long ago where the governments of these two states said that it was fine for Black Lives Matter protesters to protest in the streets. Now, irrespective of how you feel about the value statement of Black Lives Matter or whether you agree with the organisation of Black Lives Matter is irrelevant. They were allowed to protest. Now, we've got people who are saying we are tired of being locked down. We are tired of the government telling us we cannot have freedom of movement. Okay? We want to have freedom of movement returned to us. We were told it was only for a very short time, and now it's, 6 months? 7 months? What next? It'll be March next year, it'll be a full 12 months, we'll be locked down? It's getting to the point of ridiculous. At one stage, it wasn't until the American media and the American crap started going on about masks that suddenly everybody in Australia had to wear a mask. Especially in Victoria and Sydney, because there's lots of people in that place and they're getting COVID. That was always going to happen, by the way. It's a virus. It doesn't matter. All this does, and I've said this in previous videos, all the lockdown does is for a limited amount of time, unless you're going to lock everybody in their houses forever, for a limited amount of time, you're going to get less cases. It's a virus. It's going to hit eventually. You go, we'll trickle it through. You can't just trickle it through. It's going to hit, and it hit Melbourne, and the numbers are going down, and they've been steadily going down now over the last 2 weeks. Okay, the major hit was about a month ago, and it hammered the crap out of them. The numbers are now going down. Why? Because it probably hit its apex, and now it just naturally, there's less people getting it. Okay, this is the nature of flu as well. When the flu season hits, everybody gets crook within the first few weeks, and then slowly the numbers come down. That's the way this goes. It's a virus. It's not the flu virus. I don't want anybody to go, oh my God, he's saying it's the flu. It's not the flu. It's not influenza. It's a COVID virus. It acts in a very similar way. Now, these people are protesting. We don't want to be locked down no more. We're tired of it. This is just rubbish. We just want to get on with our lives. In Australia, for the first time in 30 years, we've hit a recession. Our unemployment is now hitting double digits for the first time in, once again, 3 decades. And people want to go back to work. People want to get back to their lives. They want some normalcy. Let us go. No, is the answer from the government. No, you're not allowed to, because you're going against what our narrative as the government of Victoria, as the government of New South Wales, and this is supported by the federal government, Scott Morrison. You're going against what we want, and so therefore, because your message is against what we want people to hear and people to understand, you're going to jail. Pregnant women going to jail. Today, dozens more arrested at a memorial in Sydney for diggers who died for our freedoms, funnily enough, many of whom would have survived the Spanish flu, if not their immediate family and their fathers and mothers, survived the Spanish flu to be able to fight the Nazis and the Japanese, okay, in World War II, or the World War I vets, who many of them who came home, brought the Spanish flu with them, and it didn't wipe everybody out. This moral panic has become a moral politicized panic. COVID is now no longer about safety, it is about politics, and that's it. It's a moral panic. The governments of Australia, we're all going to die. We need to shut down and lock down. But why aren't our borders open? This is the other thing that I'm hearing. People going, I want to go travelling. I want to come into Western Australia. We've got a hard border here in Western Australia, which is closed off from the rest of the country, except for essential travel, unless you're willing to spend a couple of weeks in lockdown in order to do whatever you're going to do. Fine. But Western Australia is a pain in the ass. Everybody's now becoming Clive Palmer. Western Australia should let down its borders. They're the only state that's saying not let down the borders. Meanwhile, Victoria, in saying all of this, Victoria has the double standard, and New South Wales has the double standard of arresting people who protest. They're saying, let's bring down the state borders. But at the same time, if you protest against our COVID rules, you're going to be arrested. That is utterly insane. It makes no sense. You've got a standard for one group of folks and not for another. Oh, Western Australia hasn't got much COVID, they should open up. Well, hang on, by your own decree, if we're in lockdown from the rest of Australia, that's because we're staying safe, right? We're following that mandate, that idea of we're safe over here in the West, and you want us to bring down our borders so we're not? So we end up with lots of COVID? And yet you're arresting people who are protesting stopping the lockdown when you want Western Australia to stop locking down. Are you fucking mental? This is why I know it's political. This is all about politics. This is all about Dan Andrews going, oh, I have to be seen to be doing the right thing. What am I going to do? I'm going to be an authoritarian and start arresting people who protest. Are you arresting the people who go to the shopping centre to buy food? No. But what if that person was, I don't know, like the pregnant lady wrote something on Facebook about we're going to have a protest at this point in time, blah, 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 and because it was a Facebook post, she was arrested. This is the thing. If it's a peaceful protest, you can't stop it. Surely not. Oh, yes, we can. We're the nanny state. Australia, by the way, has been a nanny state for a very long time. If you want to know how much of a nanny state Australia is, just look at the price of the cigarettes. Now, you could be against smoking. You could be a smoker. I don't really care. But look at the price of the cigarettes. A pack of 50-gram Winfield Gold, and I know this because my partner smokes, and up until recently, so did I, is now $119 for the tobacco pouch, the blue Rizla papers, and the orange filters. Why? Because they don't want you to smoke anymore. That's why. It's a nanny state. We're going to force people to stop smoking because we're going to make it too expensive to smoke now. What a load of shit. And it happens every year. The price bumps, the price bumps, the price bumps. Here's the problem with the price bumping like that, though. The amount of taxes that they collect, they can't afford to lose. So they actually don't want anyone to give up smoking, because if everyone gave up smoking, then they wouldn't have as much money. Same with gambling. Everyone, oh, gambling's a problem. Gambling's addiction. You should stop gambling. They don't want you to stop gambling. If they really wanted to stop tobacco sales, they would ban it. They haven't banned it. Why haven't they banned it? Because they need the cash. They need the tax off it. They need the state tax, the federal tax, and everything else that comes with it. Import tax, embargo tax, whatever the fuck it is. But we're going to control you. We don't want you treating your children in any way. We don't want you treating your children. Otherwise, we'll take them off you. Black, white, or brindle. It's got to the point now in this country where you cannot say boo without being trodden on. You cannot voice an opinion without it being trodden on. You cannot come up with a liberal point of view like, I'm sick and tired of being in lockdown. It's time to just let the cards fall where they will, because hell, we're in recession. We need everybody back working because that's the only reason we're in recession. No, you're going to be under arrest for wanting our economy to recover, one, and two, we're going to arrest you because you're not doing what the government tells you to do. Have they murdered anyone? No. And by the way, with this idea, well, they could kill grandma. Hell, you could have a normal flu during a normal flu season and give it to goddamn grandma, and grandma at the age of 89, her body can't take it and she dies. Are we going to do this with every flu season? Are we going to do this with every virus that ever happens from now on in? This has become a political issue. This is where the nanny state turns into an authoritarian state. Do what we say, irrespective of how you feel. And if, by the way, if you want to take your rights, and it is a right in Australia to peacefully assemble, as much as it is in America, you want to take your rights to peaceably assemble and to tell the government how you feel about them, we're just going to arrest you and throw you in the slammer. If you make a Facebook post to that effect, we're going to arrest you and put you in the slammer. Or fine you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for putting other people's lives at risk. Even though right now there are people with colds and flus walking around, but they've had the COVID test, right? So they're fine. But they're still, because it's flu season. You know, the flu has gone around my hometown, which has no COVID cases since about April. About April. Mate. We've had nothing since May in this town. Since May, not one case. And people are walking around with the normal wintertime flu. And they could give that to grandma just as easily. They've had the COVID test, they're fine. So people aren't worrying about the common flus and the things that can still kill the elderly or kill the infirm. It's just COVID. It's ridiculous. It's now got to the point where this COVID thing is out of control. And I'm going to make a prediction. And people aren't going to like hearing this prediction, I don't think. But here's my prediction. And then I'm going to explain why my prediction exists. After November, COVID will no longer be an issue. Excuse me. COVID will no longer be an issue. And let me explain to you why. You see, Australian politics and the English politics, or the UK politics, and the New Zealand politics are so heavily invested in American politics. Not European politics. We're not looking at Sweden or Switzerland or Germany or France or any of these other countries who it just happened and they just, they did their best at controlling it and they worked through the situation like we could. Okay? No. What did they do? We're going to look at America now. America is highly politicized. It is polarized to the shitter. Republican, Democrat, love Trump, hate Trump, whatever it is. I mean, there's lots of moderates in the middle, I know. They're not the voices you hear. The voices you hear are the Democrats and the Republicans and the people that are pro and against. Okay? And our media picks up on it. Our politicians pick up on it because, if it's in the media, it must be popular, right? And it just becomes this shitstorm. And it becomes politicized in this country, even though it's not a political issue in this country. We have become so wrapped up in the politics of America, the United States of America, that we are now no longer, as far as I'm concerned, Australia. But the trouble is we've taken it the other direction. Instead of America, where at the moment they're having their discussions about what freedom is again, which, okay, that's fine, they can do that. They can have arguments over, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Green Lives Matter, Women's Lives Matter, Men's Lives Matter, whatever they want. But that's there. But after November, it will cease to be an issue because America will move on. Because this is a political football for them. And so after the politics, Trump wins again, it'll all die down. Biden wins, it'll all die down anyway, because now we've got rid of the evil orange man. We literally are at the situation we're in now because we are too busily looking at America. We need to stop doing this. Okay? After November, COVID's done. It's done. It'll disappear. It'll still be there, I want you to understand. And still, it's good to take precautions. But as a political issue, it'll die. It'll just be dead. Because it'll disappear from the American politics. Well, it disappears from the American politics. The media suddenly doesn't care in Australia. Politicians go, well, it's not popular anymore, so we don't need to worry about it as much. The populace doesn't care because apparently media is all the politicians ever care about. Because let's face it, if you're in Canberra, you're not listening to somebody in Geraldton, you're not listening to somebody in Adelaide, you're not listening to somebody in Darwin or Hobart or, Merrimbooka, Maroochydore. You're only listening to what you think the people are listening to and doing, which is through the media and social media. It's a terrible, terrible way to look at the world, by the way. We need to get our politicians, and just as an aside, we need to get our politicians back out in the field. And I said this last election. We need to get our politicians back out door knocking and talking to the average person. What's your problem? What do you think you need? And I think that half of our problems would disappear because they'll go, oh shit, most people don't care about Twitter. Most people don't give a fuck about Facebook. They've got real issues and they need to solve them in real time and reality. It's much easier to read a Twitter feed. It's just the way it is, I guess. We need to stop this authoritarianism. We need to nip it in the bud. Now, however you're going to do that, I don't know. I'm not going to advocate anyone getting arrested. If you get my drift. I'm not a big fan of that idea. Maybe there's another way. But this authoritarianism needs to stop around COVID. We do need to be free. We need to get the economy back up and running. And we need to get people's lives back in order. Because we've got a whole generation of kids who in the last 2 or 3 years have come through the system of the school, come out of the schools, and now they've got no work. That's not fair. That's not right. Not to mention all the other people who had jobs who now don't. That's not fair. That's not right. I'm Nathan Gooks Fletcher. This is my drunk philosophy, and I'll catch you guys later on. Be good. Be well. Don't be evil. I'll catch you on down the road. Hooroo.